Good evening. So I'm going to briefly go over my experience with Connie's Cafe and this past assignments and out of class experience we had with Connie. So first off, what I learned that change requires more than just good ideas. Throughout the entire class, there was tons of good ideas, but along with those ideas came so much backup and planning and stuff, and that's where the communication and the timing becomes critical. My second point of what I learned is like how those good ideas were communicated, how those good ideas were communicated to Connie for her to understand them, and the timing of it. Having those, I think, like with the app, like having a timestamp of like when this can get done, when that can get done over a year span of stuff. It's really insightful for Connie to see and for us to see how a good idea can be taken and put into action. And then obviously all these ideas came from people. People play a huge role in success for business and for change in general. So the process, I noticed that it first off you got to identify areas needing improvement, and this is kind of what my group did and stuff. When we were in Connie's, we kind of looked around and saw what we did as other groups did, and kind of saw and thought about what we could do and how we could improve our business. Not necessarily change it completely, but just make small improvements. And then we kind of went to the drawing board and developed realistic, practical solutions for Connie, and then later evaluated impact when presenting those and really dove deep into them when speaking to Connie on how much it would cost and how feasible some of these options and things we could do, such as food drives, merch was mentioned, apps, all these different ideas that were presented throughout the class. So, working with the owner, the biggest thing was obviously decisions are limited by time and budget. Connie doesn't have $60,000, I'm sure, to just whip out for an app or a big budget for a food truck or whatever it may be. These are things that would take considerable thinking from her. So that's kind of going into the third point, skipping over the second one. You got to think from her perspective and understand that she is running a business. She doesn't have these funds to set aside, but if you gave her a timeline to maybe set the funds aside, can it be a realistic solution for a problem she may be having? And this is where every change does involve risk. If you set money aside, you're gambling on this risk. You're maybe not gambling, you're gambling with good measurement because you have studies in it and stuff, but you're willing to take a risk in order to set aside money, set aside time to see if something can be successful in the long run. And then when presenting the ideas, the biggest thing was to be clear and confident. If you're not clear and confident, do you even think that Connie would listen and really buy into your ideas? I don't think she would. You have to be bought into your own ideas for them to be successful. And then you focus on the value and the benefits of the ideas. So, like food drives that we did is a good example. We focused on community engagement and stuff and how it could help the community, help more people come into her shop, help Connie, as well as doing things that Connie believes in, setting out time and stuff, and having something for the community as well. And then just keeping it realistic and achievable, offering solutions that are actually feasible rather than just being like build a whole new building or something or franchise out. Like it's just not feasible for someone running a small business such as Connie. So what connected with me? Obviously, change is centered around people. You've seen just in the class how many different ideas, even similar ideas, how different they all can be, just coming from different minds. Putting all these minds, and I'm sure for Connie, it's great because you have all these young college kids coming in with ideas, and I'm sure she goes home and thinks about these ideas and what can be presented and stuff because only one person can think of and create so much. And just having so many different perspectives and perspectives she's never seen before was probably incredible. And then psychology, being a psychology major myself, as well as business administration, it's very easy and sometimes hard to notice the psychology behind things and stuff and decisions that are made. Because certain decisions, like I know we've been mentioning my day trading and stuff in the last few classes. Sometimes day trading, I have to make a decision of like a stock could be making me a bunch of money and may continue making a bunch of money. But at one point, do I cut out? Do I not be greedy and stuff? It's all psychological. Same thing goes for business with change models. At what point do you stop? At what point does it become too much? Too much change. What you don't want to dive too deep into something, but you don't want to not dive into something. There's a lot of psychology behind actually making the change, and sometimes it's just down to like, am I ready for change or am I not ready for change? And then this is where buy-in comes in. You need to be bought into change for change to ever be successful. If you don't believe in the change, no one else will. Your stakeholders, your shareholders will not believe in the change. So it's important to be bought in whatever you're doing. And then future application. This is very useful for management and leadership roles that I could go into in the future, having this experience and stuff. And then it helps improve the workplace process. Me having a bit experience with change management and dealing with new ideas and stuff, and dealing with a small business such as Connie's is good experience overall. And then builds confidence in presenting ideas. This is always going to be the case when presenting in classes, especially in business classes. Last semester with business strategy, and then this semester with this presentation. It's important to get in front of people, not only classmates, but elders as well, and people that actually run businesses, to see their perspective and really see like how well you're doing based on their reaction. And then my view of change. So before change, oftentimes I wouldn't say that I mean when I say simple, it's not like I thought it was going to be like you just say something and it happens. But there's a lot more that dives into it. There's a lot more minds I've seen that can play a part into it. And that it does require so much planning and strategy. There's so much that goes behind change, more than just the idea and the concept. And then the biggest things is it sometimes does focus on people and communication. Change cannot occur and won't occur if people are not bought into it. So you have to communicate and buy into it yourself in order for people to follow the change. And the change is only successful if you have people behind it. And then final thoughts. So I just thought it was great to have valuable real world learning experience going to Connie's, meeting Connie. She was lovely, of course, and just hearing what she had to say and her story and stuff, her testimony is something I have great respect for. And then strengthening my communication skills, as I mentioned before, presenting in front of people, not only in your class, but people you have never met before, business owners, is really good experience and good to get under your thing. And having a time limit as well helps you, because in some real world scenario, you're not going to have tons of time to get your message across, but you have a thorough plan despite the time. And I thank you for listening and stuff. This was my thoughts on the Connie's Cafe and Bakery.